Hey everyone, you made it to our show, Oak Road Diaries. It's a podcast where we get to take a journey into the lives of different experts, and we get to explore their roots and their own self-care practices.
In each episode, we dive deep into their personal philosophies, daily rituals, and transformative experiences from their lives, which offer all of us valuable insights and practical tips for our own well-being.
Join us as we uncover the wisdom behind intentional living, one story at a time.
This month, we travel to the sky where we're joined by Carolyne Faulkner, astrologer, life coach, and best-selling author of The Signs. Dubbed Britain's coolest astrologer, she's the mind behind Dynamic Astrology, a system that blends ancient wisdom with modern behavior.
Our journey helps us see that astrology can be used as a tool for self-awareness and how the star language can deepen our relationships, boost our happiness, and help us align with our design purpose.
Let's dive into the cosmos and come back a little more connected to ourselves. We've been looking forward to this. I remember last time we chatted, it was was that a couple months ago? It was before you went to France, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Sam and I, obviously, we picked up this book like we told you we would.
Amazing.
Oh yeah.
You got the British version as well.
I'm sorry.
We got what?
You've got the British one and you've got the American one. That's amazing.
Why is this the British one?
Because
tell us the
it's a
difference.
different cover.
What is it now?
Well, yeah, mine has no writing on there. How about that?
Oh, I didn't know this was
Exactly.
British.
And
I love this version.
yes, it's
It's so
they
beautiful.
did.
Look at the design.
Thank you. They do different covers for different countries.
That's fantastic.
I'm all about
That's
that.
a great idea.
It's a hardcover. Is yours hardcover, Sam?
Yeah. Oh yeah, hardcover for sure.
I can only do hardcover books for the most. Like I
can't stand holding a
weird
soft cover. It just flops in your hands, and
It's not even that. It's like the thing for me with soft. So here's a soft cover one, right? So this is the classic 7 Habits. I couldn't get this. I could not find a hard copy. It's when the pages start to bend.
Exactly.
You like a crisp.
I cannot stand it. It's like my OCD. I can't. It messes it up. When I was in school at university, I would put tape
Bust
on
out
the
the
edges.
accent.
You know, I'd put tape on the edges because it would go in my book bag, and I didn't want to mess up the edges.
I bet you I could find that somewhere in your chart.
I bet you could. You see this big symbol right here? This is right here why you are the way you are.
It's like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, nee. But yeah, anyway, well, listen, Carolyne, we are just tickled pink. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, we like we said in the last time we chatted, we didn't want to talk too much then because it's almost like when you're watching a movie, right? If they just give too much in the preview, like you said, you watch the whole movie already, right? And so we just wanted to make sure that we, obviously we've done some research on you, just enough, right, to have some cliff notes, but we just want to have a conversation like we're sitting at a table, just chatting, the best we can. And so we just thought, maybe we'd start just keeping it easy. Like I said, last time we chatted, you were on your way to France and you had some interesting things going on. I don't know if and then some new opportunities came up you were mentioning.
Yeah, I've got I have a few things going on. I'm in the middle of writing a book. It's a spiritual comedy, so it's called Around the Signs in 80 Days. So I'm in the middle of doing that. It hasn't been commissioned yet, so we'll see. I'm also working on with a fine jeweler for a jewelry collection. She's based in Greece, and I'm also working on a new app. So it's an app that connects people that have similar interests. So it's taking up, and also a TV program. So
Fantastic.
the TV program I'm really excited about. I can't really say too much about it, but it's going to be it's based in the US, and it's basically helping people to work through their karma.
That's awesome.
So you
And a
just gave us,
specific group of people as well, which I can't really say, but it's really exciting.
That is awesome. How do we be part of that?
yeah.
That sounds like an awesome opportunity.
You don't want to be part of that group of people, I can assure you.
Okay, all right.
So
But maybe if they open it up, then
Oh yeah.
then I'll definitely put you forward. We'll see how it depends on if people like it or not. If it gets good
Sure.
reviews, then we can open it up, but it might bomb. You never know.
Yeah.
It might be good, and as well, we don't know.
Was all these projects, it's safe to assume they're all dealing with astrological things,
Yeah, and
right? Because you're a part
spirituality.
of it. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
I
So
think
it's
those are awesome projects to be on. I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing all about them.
Well, I think your project is great as well, and I think that,
Well, thank you.
talking spirituality and especially men talking spirituality is really something that's close to my heart as the mother of a young man, and also I think that it's very easy for women to sort of talk about spirituality, but it's not so easy for. I know things are changing, and maybe I'm being a little sort of old fashioned here, but I still think that we need to have more talk on spirituality from a male's perspective.
Yeah, I
Like
agree with that.
I,
Yep.
I have I sometimes do some episodes, not regular, not you guys, your podcast is going to be an absolute huge success if it's not already, I don't know, but it
It
is.
is not a huge success as of right now, but
It
I
will be.
believe it in my core, my gut
This is our
that
second recording, you know.
It
this
will
is it.
be. It's going
I
to
mean,
be
I feel it. I feel goosebumps every time I talk about it, and it just
great.
it's a different. I think we're putting a different twist on it. Like we said
Yeah,
our preview, as Jared mentioned, we're not redesigning anything at all. We're basically just putting it as two brothers. This is the stuff we've worked in our lives. It helped us. It consistently helps us throughout our days. For example, yesterday was an absolute shit show for me. Absolutely. And it was just I didn't do any of my self-care practices. I haven't done it for the last 4 days, and I've realized I need to do those self-care practices to finally get balance back into life. And what I dealt with yesterday, and I would even say in the last 4 days, and with all the projects you're working on, everyone feels this overwhelming, this burning, this burnout feeling. So we're not redesigning anything. We're just trying to help people say, this is how you can practically put this into your life if you
exactly.
just intentionally live instead of just focusing on what do I want to do tomorrow with my, whatever it gives me out of my funk. I have to go on vacations or I have to go buy a bunch of stuff to feel happy. That's not the tool. The
No,
tool
it's not at all. I was about
is
to
the
say.
basic self-care practices. Those things can be used to help enhance your feeling already. And as you mentioned, as from a men's perspective, I think it's vital. I think it's vital that women, for like you said, for centuries or at least dozens of years throughout the history, women are for sure um, more prominent when it comes to talking about emotions and feelings and things like that, and men are just expected to bunker down and just provide for the families and be okay with all these feelings and not knowing how to explain them and whatnot.
Yeah, but also to be a certain way, I think. I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on men to be successful as well. And I think that, it's being successful is being content in one's life as far as I'm concerned. It's and what are your self-care practices? I mean, I think
Uh,
that's a really good thing to know.
Personally,
Yeah,
yeah. So with our 7 pillars at the Happy Atrium, we try to hit at least 7 things in our day, maybe one thing that hits all 7 of the pillars. But my personal self care practices are to wake up in the morning. I immediately shout out a gratitude, whether it be mentally or sometimes verbally, depending on the dynamic of the family. Sometimes everyone's up, so I'm like, "Hey, thank you, world. Thank you for this new day." I look at every day as a new 24 hours that I try not to focus on the past because as a Capricorn and as a someone that you can dive deeper into it, but I overthink tremendously, and I'm always thinking on how to fix things. And I saw the side note here. I saw an AI generated video yesterday. I was trying to post it on our platform, and it looked creepy, but it was basically like this mole, this person, but no person. It was like this gushy, I don't know, Jello thing that you just saw the brain and the body just kind of moving. I'm like, dude, this is exactly what my brain does when I'm overthinking stuff, and I'm
yeah.
just going around and around and around. So
I'm just
that's
looking
part
at
of
your
my
chart. If you see
Yeah.
me looking down, I'm looking at when
Yeah,
you're
you're good.
I'm looking at your chart. So if you see me, I'm not disengaging. I'm just
No,
looking at
no,
you.
yeah, absolutely, you're fine.
So
So
carry on.
that's one of my things is to wake up and just show gratitude for the day. I'm happy that there's 24 hours. Now, sometimes those 24 hours are nothing but 16 hours of work, whereas I already know my schedule. I'm going to be working for the 16 hours. However, within the job myself, I can still show happiness to other people. Every time a patient comes in, I thank them for having been able to X-ray them, or thanking them for coming in to being a patient. Um, it's a weird thing that people they look at like, why are you thanking them for coming into the medical office?
That's lovely.
But
That's lovely.
it gives me a job. It allows me to show happiness to them.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, we got a technical glitch here. Give me 1 second. Somehow my headphones went off. Sorry, guys. We'll cut this part out.
That's all right.
Sweet headphones. There we go. Sorry about that. Um, the next thing I usually do is I try to at least read one passage in a book. I have a list of books
That's
that I have on
great.
my nightstand, or and if I can get timing enough, I will then journal. Sometimes I can't rush out before work, so when I get to work, I have some spare time that I try to at least meditate and maybe journal or read something as well if I didn't get in the morning. So that's typically how my day starts off.
I love that. I think gratitude is such a high vibration, and the universe doesn't really understand I don't want, or I want, or I don't want. It just understands, the last word you say, if that makes sense. So it's almost like being grateful for all of the things that we already have in our lives generates the energy of bringing more to us, which is, I think it's really powerful. And I think that negativity, there's something quite unhealed about people that are very negative, and I'm not judging people that are negative. What I'm saying is it's important that they work on healing, and the a really simple way of working on healing is to work with gratitude,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So
For whatever situation you're in, basically, right?
a
I'm
lot of
thankful for
this,
being in
yeah,
this.
a lot of the time people think that, first of all, that if you live a spiritual life, you're a perfect person, and it's not like that. It's just you're on a journey of trying to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And also, I think one of the main factors of being a spiritual person is that you have faith, and whatever that faith looks like for you, be it, religious or spirituality and religion are very different.
Hmm.
Religion is very structured, and religion is is a beautiful thing in its core, and spirituality is also a beautiful thing in its core. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to be the best versions of ourselves, and I think ultimately it boils down to faith, and having faith is much easier when you have gratitude for all of the good things and the blessings that you have in your. I mean, even living. I'm not talking about this because I know we're not talking about political stuff, but we live in the West, and living in the
Talking about
West,
whatever, yeah.
we
Yeah,
have
we could.
clean.
It's an open forum. We could talk literally about anything we want.
Yeah, we have clean water, we have roofs over our heads, we
Yeah,
have access to food. Even if we don't have money, we have friends and family that can help us. Most people, I'd say the
sure.
majority of people have people, safety nets. And I know that the West is a little crazy at the moment. Your country is certainly in the spotlight every day. We turn on the
Yeah, we
news
are.
we turn on the news over here, and we think, what's going on over there
What,
now?
what did Trump
She's
say
like, I got
today?
my bowl of popcorn. Let's see what kind of shit's happening over across the pond.
Yep. It's never a dull moment, that's for sure. I mean,
No,
I'm just trying to make light of situations, but I
absolutely.
think that I just was talking about your the gratitude stuff. And real quickly, I was looking at your chart and trying to find out where the overthinking comes from. So let me just make sure that so Sam, I'm looking at your chart here. So you have one, two, three, four, five planets in Capricorn. So there's a lot of pressure on you and on yourself to
Yeah.
be a success of what you do. So being kind to yourself, I think, is really important. You also have Aquarius rising. So Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus governs astrology. So you'd actually be very good at astrology. So the more you study, I think, I'm not just saying it because it's my book. I'm saying it because the signs is a really good foundation for someone to start looking at astrology on a little bit of a deeper level, but you'd actually be really good at it. In terms of the overthinking, I think that's all I think it's something called Lilith. So Lilith is basically in astrology, it's the dark side of the moon. So you
Mm-hmm.
have a moon sign and then you have the dark side of the moon. And we all have Lilith somewhere in our charts, and yours is in the sign of Virgo. And when Virgo is not working very well, it simply means that one overthinks, and it's like a constant board meeting that's going on in your mind.
Yeah.
Could have, should have, would have.
Girl, that's basically how I feel whenever we golf and the ball goes that way or this way. It's a
Could
game
have,
of woulda, coulda, shoulda.
could have, would have, could have, would have, should have. That's what came
Yeah.
into
Yep.
my head. And the thing is that what that is not. I mean, it's not very helpful for you. But the only way to counteract that, because I don't think there's any point bringing stuff up unless there's a solution.
Mm-hmm.
The way to counteract that, and this goes for anyone else who's listening who has a tendency to overthink. I think it's about being present and coming back into the breath. Like, I know it sounds a little crazy, but just take 3 deep breaths with me right now, and everyone listening, try this.
Wonderful.
Come back into the room.
That feels amazing.
It actually activates the vagus nerve, those 3
Mm-hmm.
deep breaths like that, and the vagus nerve works to counteract anxiety.
Yes.
So when you start to overthink, it's about training yourself to get into the space where you stop yourself from running into the future or diving into the past, because the past sometimes is riddled with depression and sadness,
Mm-hmm.
and the future can sometimes be riddled with anxiety and a feeling of a lack of control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you see, that's my little talisman for when you start to overthink. You stop, you take the 3 deep breaths, and it's not just a shallow deep breath, because the thing is that we all have FOMO. We have such fear of missing out that we don't even want to breathe in case we miss something.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Don't even want to blink. I get it. It's interesting that you mentioned the tool of being present in the moment. So something I do is I teach individuals how to run through medical emergencies or codes, right? So part of that training is I tell people your adrenaline kicks in immediately. Anybody that goes through any kind of stressful situation, your adrenaline kicks in. And unofficially, I tell them we all need to take some breaths. Take a few seconds, a few deep breaths, get back into your baseline. And that way you can think of what tools, what equipment do I need for this medical emergency. So it's very practical how, number one, you did it right now, and also in my own life where I do it, and like it's a skill, right? So it's a skill that you have to do it more often. But for sure, I see myself breathing a lot more lately, especially
Yeah.
with the family dynamic that I have, which is a 2-year-old, a 6-month-old, and a 10-year-old. So it's a lot of breathing happening any given day to be present and to not be anxious and to deal with any of that stuff. I appreciate you going over into the charts. I'd like to take a journey down into your childhood,
Oh,
if you're okay with that.
of
So
course. So
this
it's
this
pretty
show
crazy.
this show is all premised on taking a journey back down into the roots of the individual or the guest. So I love going into this. We could talk about this for hours. I swear we can have
Oh,
a whole weekend and go over this stuff.
yeah.
Um, However, I want our listeners and even for ourselves, I want to know more about how did you get to become this world-renowned astrologer, this woman who has pioneered a genre of written books. I mean, you're an amazing person. You know what
Thank
I
you.
mean? So how did you become this person? What happened in your childhood that you're willing to share? And I see that your history, you shifted from a corporate lifestyle into this life coaching, this spiritual person. I think that's I think people want to know about these experts, these
Of
people like
course.
we put you
Where did it
guys up on this pedestal. Where do you come from? Yeah.
Where did it come from? I think I've had a really interesting life, not just sort of saying it. So I'll try and keep it brief. I I've been very intuitive since I was a child, and I've been having prescient dreams since I was a child. And I feel like the majority of the world are intuitive. They have a strong sense of intuition. It's just mine wasn't as tightly wrapped as other people's, and I had, I was always a child, very much child of the universe. I was lucky. I grew up in Wales. It was sort of the countryside, but my father was in the casino business. And when I was little, my father won the precursor to the Little Woods. It was called the Little Woods Pools, and it was actually the precursor to the lottery.
Cool.
So what he did was he was in a syndicate, and they used to sort of, I mean, he was very, very poor, my dad. He grew up in a mining village, and he ran away to London from Wales when he was 15. And he started collecting glasses in a very famous casino in London because they'd only just been granted their legal licenses. That was at the time of the Playboy casinos and everything else in the 60s.
Okay, I was just wondering what year that was around.
Yeah,
So in the
well, late
60s.
late 60s, 70s.
Okay.
And so he came to Wales, back to Wales, and he he worked his way up from being collecting glasses to basically being a croupier. And so he won a version of it's the precursor to the lottery, if you like. He won money, and he founded his first casino. Um, and he went on to found about 10 casinos. So, and in those days, it wasn't regulated the way it is now. So they were making an awful lot of money.
Was that all in Wales?
No, all over the United Kingdom, and then he branched out and went to Europe as well. He went to Europe he went to Romania. Was it Romania? Um, yeah, just after the revolution. I think it
So
was in
he
19.
used his earnings and invested it right away into a casino.
Into a casino, yeah. But he didn't work. They didn't win like masses. He won quite a lot, but it wouldn't have been enough to just found a casino. But he'd met my mother by that time, and um, my mother's family ran a building firm, so they helped him to do all of. He wouldn't have been able to do it without them, So it was very much like
Wow.
this family thing.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he was a dreadful gambler, and he basically got involved with the underworld. And our when I was very little, and I we lived in a beautiful house in the countryside. It was absolutely stunning. Um, in acres and acres of grounds, and there were horses there, and we had dogs and parrots and all sorts. It was wild.
Dang.
But he was very nouveau riche. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So if you can imagine in anyone in the sort of the 80s, it was nouveau riche. He had it all.
That's
Do you, do you,
awesome.
do you know what I mean? I mean, like loads of money, no class.
It's like, what do I do with this? Let me go to the underground and stir some shit
Yeah.
up.
Absolutely. So he got involved with some really, really bad people. And when I was young, my family were going to watch a show in London, and I had chickenpox at the time. You guys have chickenpox, the
Oh
same
yeah.
thing, same
Yeah,
thing, yeah.
yeah. Sam and I
Yep.
both
So
have
I
it.
had
Absolutely. Yep.
So I went to go and stay with my grandmother, but I wouldn't go unless I packed up every single toy I had. So I had a tantrum, and they had to pack all my toys. But listen to this. They had to pack all my toys in these black bags, and I went to my grandmother's with all my toys. And I woke up the next morning to see my grandmother and my grandfather watching the news. I was tiny, and my house had been blown up,
What?
and it was in the
What?
national news. Yeah, I've got the newspaper
Gosh.
clippings. My house had been blown up, and my family were in front of the house. Basically, my father was saying, "Well, I work in this industry. I've made
Sure.
enemies. We must have been watched." And everyone, when I went to school, I went to this Roman Catholic, very sort of uh, strict, but she private school at the time. And everyone was bringing me toys in, and I said, "I don't need any of your toys.
I already packed them all up.
I got them all right here in my bags.
I have absolutely every single one of my Cindy's, my Barbies, my toys. I had everything.
That's
So
awesome.
that was it was a crazy life, and
All I'm picturing is like Peaky Blinders.
Well, do you know?
Have
What
you
your
seen Peaky
pops was?
Blinders or no?
Of course.
What was your dad
Okay, is
involved
it
in?
anything to do with that lifestyle?
Well, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's all very, casinos are very corporate these days, but
Sure,
back
yeah.
then
It's
they were run
mafia.
by independents. It was all cash. It was, and it attracted the underworld basically. And so he got himself in a lot of bother because he made a lot of money, but he also burned through a lot of money. I mean, you've got to imagine that he was like, like in the 80s, he wasn't even 30 years old.
Oh
Whoa.
my goodness, he was just
You know
so
what
he
I'm
was
saying? So
immature
I'm
too.
thinking, like the times here. So it was sort of late 60s. He was so anyway. He was very young.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to have that kind of, you see it all the time with footballers
Yeah,
that don't have strong families,
absolutely.
and pop stars that don't have very strong roots. And I mean, it's different now because people, people that are in their sort of 20s now, they're much more mature, I'd say, than, every generation seems to get more mature, I feel,
Yeah, the
do
new
you know what
term is called woke, I believe, unless I'm
No,
maybe
it's
I'm
not just
maybe
that.
I'm further down the line.
But
Well, yeah.
so he's involved in this. Sorry, I just want to pump the brakes a little bit here. He's in because this I think it matters a little bit, right? Because your upbringing was that. So this was you were a little kid at that point, like in 10 years old or whatever.
No, yeah, I was 4.
Oh, you were way young.
Yeah,
Okay.
4, 5, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you were like my
I might
dad.
have the dates wrong, but I remember being like 4 or 5. I mean, it's in the
Okay.
news. I should
Yeah.
find the clippings.
So he's dealing with the underworld. What happened after that? Did he like unravel that eventually? Like
Yeah, well, he disappeared for 20 years. So,
no. After it
yes,
blew up, he bounced.
he bounced.
Wow.
Yes, but he left
Wow.
my mum with, as much as he could, everything else. But he just, but my whole point was, because my rising sign is Cancerian, I had to learn that security begins within. And anyone who's Cancerian or has a lot of Cancerian in their charts, and we all have a little bit to a lesser or greater degree, I had to learn that because my life was very, very unstable. And so I had to learn that irrespective of where I was or how much money we had, or that security began within. And I've always had these prescient dreams, and I've always been very intuitive. I kind of know when something bad's going to happen. Loads of people have it. They have like this feeling of.
Yeah.
So I went on a journey. I had a spiritual awakening, and I remember someone saying my battery's flat on my phone, and I picked it up and it turned on. I mean, it was crazy.
Wow.
My partner at the time was a music producer, and he wouldn't let me in his studio, because of all the snap, crackle, and pop that used to go on.
Snap,
No.
crackle, pop.
So
Jared and I use that phrase
do,
frequently.
do you keep going? I don't want to lose
Yeah,
your train
of
of
you,
thought.
I don't think I've ever said it before, so I'm just channeling you guys.
Snap, crackle, pop. Jared, you know that. What's that from?
Crispies, a cereal.
Yeah. It's from a show, but so you. Sorry, I don't. I'm just. This matters because it helps us understand you better. I mean,
It does. Yeah.
I'd like to touch upon it a little bit more if you don't mind. Just the whole
I don't mind
fact.
at all. I started writing a film about it called Jackpot. I don't mind at all. I mean, it's
I'm just so
Awesome.
this house blows up. You're 5 years old.
yeah, it gets torched. So they start a fire. It's a gas explosion, but it's done on purpose.
Of course it is.
Wow.
So did
Yeah.
you have any siblings?
Yeah, 2.
Okay, so you guys are there, and then pretty much thereafter, it's your mom and 3 kids, and the 3
Yeah,
kids. Your
yeah.
dad had to leave to maybe kind of get the heat off the family and stuff, figure his
That's
own
what he
life
said.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he? So are you still going to the school at this point?
Yeah, there was a one point when I went to boarding school, Roman Catholic again. They loved me there. I was my family are not Catholic, but I was educated my formative years by Roman Catholic nuns, and some of them were absolutely wonderful, and some of
Okay.
them, but I was very, very into God when I was younger. They used to call me a little Bible basher, my sisters.
Really?
I was really into God. And so
Okay.
I'd argue with the nuns and say, my God's not the same as your God. He's not this vengeful being. And they used to say, what are you talking about?
Oh,
You're
yeah, I bet it was.
So you saw the loving God in the scriptures as you were reading the
yeah,
Bible. You saw that loving
Mhm.
God, right? Because there's both, right?
exactly.
He's got
Yep.
both sides.
Yep.
Interesting. So you were in school till 5. Dad leaves at 5. So basically, in between that time, take us back a little bit. So you're going to school. He's trying to leave He left your mom with enough money, but did your mom then have to leave, and now she's no longer? You
No,
don't.
my mum's they said it was nothing to do with my mum, and so
But
but
did she have to
rather
go
than
work to take care of you?
she
You.
did, yeah. So
Okay.
my mum set up a club and a restaurant. So yeah, yeah. So my mum's Capricorn. They don't mess around.
Yeah,
She's like,
we're
you're
pretty
gone. It's fine.
fierce.
Let's go.
They don't mess around, Capricorns. But I think my point is it wasn't until, and I was quite, I remember being in my boarding school and one of the nuns said to me, "Oh, Caroline, when I was young, I was wild like you, and then I saw the light and I found God. And I used to go to bed every night saying, 'Oh God, I really love you, but please don't let me see the light. I don't want to be a nun.
That's hilarious.
You're like, I'm fine right where I'm at.
I love you, but I don't want to be a nun like her.
I don't want to be a nun.'" But anyway, and then there was
Oh, that's
another
great.
nun called Sister Bernadine, which was really interesting. And she said to me, "You're the type of person that will be either up there, so high up in the star that touching the stars where no one will be able to touch you, or you'll be in the gutter, Caroline." And I used to say, "Well, thanks a lot, Sister Bernadine." And
Wow.
and then in certain circumstances in my life, I used to say, "Where am I now, Sister?" I mean, she's long dead,
Sure.
She was about 90 then, do you know what I mean? And I was just like, where am I now, Sister Bernadette? But anyway, those were my formative years. And then, so I was educated by Roman Catholic. I sang in the school choir. I loved God. And then my 20s, I was very wild. I had my son when I was a teenager, but I don't want to really bring him into this because he's very, very private and he's not okay with me gassing about him. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
I obviously respect that.
So you were in Roman Catholic up till teenage years? You were in Roman Catholic school up till teenage years?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so basically when I was in my 20s, I basically discovered Buddhism, which I absolutely I love, really love. I mean, I'm not going to, I have a pendant that my partner gave me with Mary on, and I wear that every single day. I love it, and I'm not going to, move. My grandmother was also Church of England, very Christian, would take me to church on Sundays with her, and so I've kind of grown up with that. But I've studied Buddhism for since my early 20s, and I really love karma, cause and effect.
Sure, I'm right there with you.
Do you know what karma,
Yep.
cause and effect? And I feel like we've lost so much of reincarnation, karma, cause and effect in the Bible, so to speak. I know it's
Mhm.
referenced. I
Yep.
believe that Jesus was a prophet, but I believe that the Christ consciousness exists in all of us, and I feel like the Buddha consciousness is exactly the same thing.
Sure. Yeah, girl, you're right up there with me. Or I should say I'm right up there with you.
Well, we're there together, right?
Yeah. Well, what led you down the path to
Yeah,
Buddhism then?
yeah, because you
So you're
grew
in
up
your
with.
20s, you're going wild, you're crazy, you're like, this is
Yeah,
not working for me.
yeah.
I had my fun. And so what came across you?
I I basically, I mean, they call it like a come to Jesus moment. I had a very big come to Jesus moment, and I was like, I my intuition basically, I think I was in a car. I had this a Lotus Elise at the time. Do you know what Lotus Elise is? It's like a tin can, but they're super
Yeah,
fast
yeah, yeah. They're way
and
Okay.
they're
fast.
super low to the ground. They're like race cars. I had one of those, and I came out of this club, and I heard a voice that said, I opened the door, didn't even look what was coming. I opened the door, and basically, I heard a voice saying to me, "Put your legs in quickly." And I quickly put my legs in, and a lorry went past and took the door off. I wouldn't even
Whoa.
be here today.
Wow.
And for
Wow.
me, that kind of made me wake up. I was like, I was nearly, I mean, I don't know if you can understand the gravity of the situation, but I would have been dead, you
100%.
know? And I heard a voice as clear as day saying, pull your legs in quickly. Because it was like a bucket car. And you
Whoa.
literally had to like lift your legs in to get you,
Yeah,
and
it
it
would
took
have smoked you.
Yeah.
took the whole door off. But so situations like that, whether it's God, whether it's my intuition, whether it's Jesus, whether it's the angels, maybe it's an amalgamation of them all. But I have had one too many scenarios and situations in my life like that made me start behaving myself. And I said, look, I'm perfectly happy to dedicate my life to service, but it has to be creative.
I like that. I like it. I right there. I align with you. I align with you in the it all being connected. Right. We all. It's funny that I myself just started writing, playing around with writing, I should say.
That's great.
Writing a novel. I've never done it before, but I felt pressed to start writing something.
I
And
love that.
I believe a lot of people out there, they start with some sort of religious foundation in their life.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people, right? And it's
Yeah.
one of the biggest. And I didn't realize this until I did some research, but apparently there's over 4,000 different types of religions out there, and they don't even know the real
Is that
number.
right?
But
Wow.
4,000, that's, a random Google search at 4,000. And I'm like, there's not that many countries. So there is
I hope
massive
you're not saying
confusion.
there's, yeah, well, you're right. I mean, how many countries are there? 100,
96 maybe? Don't quote me
96.
on that, people.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
according to your president, it's 200. Didn't you say it was 200? Anyway, moving on. Sorry. I didn't mean
yeah,
to.
no, I mean, no, no,
4,000
no, yeah.
religions.
4,000, that's a lot of religions out there. So that's a lot of people that are either being taught throughout these 196 countries, 4,000 different types of religions. So no wonder why the world is the way it is, this chaos and this just I'm right, you're wrong, all this types of things instead of just getting to the basics of we're all connected.
Yeah,
Why
we're
can't we
all
just
connected.
why can't we just focus on that connection as opposed to the facts of why we're being connected?
What we need is an alien invasion. That'll make us all come together, don't you
Shoot.
think?
Well, you're up there in the stars, girl. Let's go. You got to call
Yeah,
upon them.
I'm not. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Not to invade us, to help us.
do
That's
you got
right.
any sense on that? Do you think any of this? I don't know what it is, but it seems like they only come to visit the U.S. Like,
Yeah.
what's with this? Is the United States government talking about how they have all of this, the alien like technology and actual beings? Like, there's been some legit
Is that
information
only
out
in
there.
America or over across the pond there in the
So
UK? Is there
I
stuff
don't
over
know if
there?
I say that again.
Is there stuff over there in the UK that you guys believe or
Yeah, of course. I
But they've only
mean,
come to
sightings
the
and
U.S. Like, what's your take on it?
my take on, be very specific.
Yeah, what's your take on the whole? Are there aliens and other beings out there? And I'm not
I,
saying necessarily like these green, big-eyed creatures. It could look like us, but
I believe so, but I believe, I do believe. I think for us to think that we are the only beings in existence in the whole of the multiverse, and it is a multiverse and beyond, is arrogant. I
yeah, I agree
think,
with you.
but in terms of like different species and aliens, I've been thrashing this out, and the thing is that I was speaking to a friend of mine about this, and I was saying we were talking about aliens and everything else, but my theory is that they're already here, and maybe they live in the ocean, or they live pretty close, because the thing is that unless they can teleport, nothing can travel fast, as far as we know. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. So if they're from another planet, it's going to take them hundreds of years to get here.
Hmm. Yeah.
unless they can, like you said, teleport, right? Unless
Unless they can
there's
teleport or travel faster than the speed of light, and we just, so I do believe in aliens. I do believe that there's just like human beings, there's good, bad, and evil. I do believe in evil as well, I'm afraid. I do.
yeah, I
um
mean, it's
I
absolutely
th-
real.
It's present. I mean, yeah, you talked a little bit
it
about the
is.
underground, right? That's evil right there.
Yeah,
It produces evil. So yeah, I get that.
exactly. And I
Hmm.
think I do believe in aliens. I do believe that that there are, I'm just going to just say it. I do believe that there are hybrids that walk among us as well. I do believe that people have been taken. I do believe that. I do believe that there's a lot of crackpots out there, but I also believe that there's a lot of very credible people that are saying that what they've seen. And also, I don't know if this is true, maybe you could do your own research on it if it interests you, but I heard the other day there was an article in the Financial Times that there was a company that is basically now investing or using all of their investment funds to reverse engineer some of the alien technology that has now become public knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's more. It's interesting. Have you ever listened to the Joe Rogan show?
My son is obsessed.
Oh, man,
My son,
he'll yeah. We gotta throw your son in here. He'll be able to talk to us about this. The last I mean, seriously, Joe. This last year, he has had like astrophysicists on there, people that have worked like in the Pentagon that legitimately come on and they say, listen, there's only so much I can share with you, but I'm willing to tell you everything I can. And
awesome.
and the information that these guys come up with. There's a guy that was he was in the Air Force,
wow.
and he was talking about what's cool is I've heard now from these people like different perspectives, all kinds of people at different levels, and just the insight that they have just to validate what you just said effectively. You know,
Yeah.
it's fascinating. It's like, okay, well, you know, it's like that's interesting. Well, why? Right? I again personally believe I don't know if there's necessarily if they're like these green creatures with big eyes. I personally think they would probably look similar to us. And
Yeah,
again,
they
that's
do.
because I come from a Christian background, right? I believe that we are
Yeah.
created in God's image,
Yeah.
and we as humans are created in God's image. And so, why would God create these alien creatures to put His spirits into? I don't know, but I would imagine.
I don't know, man. You see those ocean creatures. Those are
Well, those are creatures. That's
interesting.
different. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about creatures.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Talk about
intelligent
beings
beings,
with different consciousness.
just different consciousness, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
that's kind of the perspective that I've had on it. And I think there are. I think here on Earth for us to think, and I've thought about this actually a lot because we believe, you know this from coming up in Christian background. We believe that God created a lot of worlds, right? And He's created not just this one, not just this Earth. And this is the Earth
Yeah.
though that He sent His Son to suffer for the sins of all the creations. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, this was the worst world of all the worlds out there that they would kill the Son of God. You know, and there's something in that as well. But there's also so much greatness here that He was sent here as well.
I think I think I think so too, and I think, I just wanted to just say that some animals are more intelligent than some people as well. Like we talked
Yeah.
about intelligent, you
Well,
know
there's
what
so
I
much more loving too, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like
Think about
like,
dogs.
I don't eat animals. I will not eat animals. I will not. I mean, it's much easier for me to stay super skinny if I did, because I would just be on a very, when people say I'm on a high protein diet, I'm like, well, for me, that would be a load of cheese.
Caroline likes her charcuteries.
10-ton Tessie I'd be. Do you know what I mean? So I get a bit jealous.
10-ton Tessie.
You know, Caroline, you had me laughing. I listened to your podcast episode when you were at the Soho House. It was about an hour long, and you broke down each one of the.
Did you? I
Oh
love
my
that.
gosh, you're hilarious, man.
Thank you.
You're like, oh, I'm so sorry. You kept apologizing. I'm so sorry. I haven't been in front of people for like 5 years or something. I'm just like,
That was my first. Thank you. That was actually. I'd been writing for a couple
Yes,
of
you
years,
said,
and
yeah.
that was the first event, public event I did, and it was almost like, when someone's been studying for a whole year for something, and then all of a sudden they get let loose. So we
Yeah.
decided to turn it into a podcast. It's
It helped me to see like you got a great sense of humor. That's why when you mentioned earlier you got this book coming out around the signs in 80 days, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah,
I wrote down a couple things because I wanted to unpack it a little bit later, but
so fast forward. So you were talking about Buddhism.
Your 20s, your transition. Yep. Yeah, the transition to Buddhism. Like once you get into the car, the Lotus. Take us back to that. So you recognize, okay, like basically, why did it woke you up to what exactly?
It woke me up to the fact that I'm a very spiritual person.
Okay.
I had this really powerful connection to God. It never really went away because do you know what I'm saying? And it not necessarily. So like for instance, I don't believe that God is a man living in the sky. I believe that God is universal consciousness, and I believe that I believe that Jesus did exist. I believe that He was the Son of God, but I also believe that we're all children of God, if you like, of that consciousness.
So you believe that He came in the form of this being, Jesus, and
Yeah,
consciousness had a son, and that was basically in the human form.
exactly. And I believe that we all have, like suffer little children to come unto me, is what Jesus said. And it's basically because the more, it's like polishing a diamond. So I know this is going to sound really crazy, and I don't believe that we all have to suffer, but sometimes when we suffer, it produces a diamond. Because it evokes our empathy and our compassion and our kindness. And I'm not saying that we all, I know I didn't answer your specific question, but I just wanted to try and touch on that. So we're on the same page, but I believe that there have been many prophets since Jesus.
That's a really good. I mean, this is a huge controversial topic, right?
It is
Well,
very
yeah, I mean, do you think
is
Buddha was a
religion. I mean,
prophet? Is that what you're saying as
I
well?
think who, but
Buddha,
yes,
Muhammad, individuals
there were
like
quite
that.
a few Buddhas. There've been quite a few.
see.
I mean,
What
So
do
if
you
I'm
think their
understanding correctly,
overarching? Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
go ahead. I was just gonna. I had a thought. So if I'm understanding correctly, so you have this universal connection, right? This spirit, and in our time that we've seen these prophets, the universal spirit has sent these prophets, and the imagery is of Buddha, of Jesus. So in a form, they've created this being, is what you're saying.
yeah,
That's what your belief is. What I'm trying,
that's
right?
what
If
I
I
think.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I also believe that Buddha started out as an ordinary man in a way who became enlightened. And so, that's what, maybe that's what, when Jesus went to the desert, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. The thing is,
I'm picking up what you're putting down for sure, because
Well,
I also align with what you're
you're
saying.
saying
This
it's
is
almost like
where
they're
my
different
shift has been.
tools. It's almost like because they could be they're different it's they come forth in different forms and they can be on the earth at the same time. But you're basically saying this universal consciousness is bringing it forth in different human forms and obviously other forms to basically
yeah,
try to connect with people in different ways to help. I would almost say like to help
elevate their consciousness.
elevate the consciousness in a way that people can understand. Right? Maybe
Totally.
it's Buddhism, maybe it's Christianity, maybe it's Muslim, right? Right? It's
Exactly. Islam, yeah.
Wow.
Islam,
It's
right? And so
exactly.
it's
That
just
is a
these different
perfect
ways.
description of
Right.
basically bringing it all together. I
Beautiful.
love
Yeah,
that. It's
I love
absolutely
that
beautiful.
too. Also, if you think about it, Buddhism is a very pragmatic, in a way, it was a very pragmatic religion. Because if you think about it, Hinduism, if you're born into a particular, like for instance, if you're born into a certain caste, it means that you can never get out of that caste, and neither can your family. Whereas Buddhism came along and said, I don't care.
Yeah, because he was wealthy. He was born into the upper class caste.
He was royalty.
Yeah,
The first Buddha
and he's
was
like, this
royalty.
isn't right.
Yeah. And he said, he was just like, you know, I he sort of said that it doesn't matter, because there were lots of Hindus that wanted to follow him and listen to his teachings, and they were just like, oh, we're only lowly, whatever. I know that the Brahmins are the high caste. I don't know what the other. Forgive me, I don't know what they're called.
Neither do we. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, but the lowly caste means that you can only ever be servants and etc. etc. And he said, that your caste has, you have the potential to become enlightened. This is nothing the caste means nothing. So for me, that's very much in line with the same teachings as Jesus. And Jesus was like, never mind all these big fancy churches and
Exactly.
mosques, synagogues or whatever, at the time.
The different priests and Sadducees and all the people that are trying to elevate themselves.
Yeah, it's like this worldly stuff it means nothing, and it's basically, your ultimately your soul, I believe, is the same as consciousness. The soul is the same as the mind, if you like. I'm not talking about the brain, I'm talking about the mind, and the mind is the same as the soul, and the soul has the potential, every single sentient being has the potential to reach enlightenment in a way. You know what I'm saying? And that enlightenment is like taking you to Jesus Christ, taking you to God, taking you to Buddha or Buddha, your Buddha nature. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, I find it fascinating. I just wish that we could all get along.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like don't
Why can't
hate.
we all just get along, like the
That's the hard
prophecy,
part,
right?
That's the
Just
that's
stop
the
being naughty and be friends.
stop it.
Stop being naughty. Yeah, I love it.
So you realize that you're connected, right? And then you go on this journey. Like take us to that then. So you're Lotus. You realize, my goodness, I'm connected to God.
Yeah,
Now, what does this mean? What were you doing at that time for work?
I was working for a creative. I was a creative consultant working underneath a marketing director for an entertainment company. So they used to say that they'd call me in when they needed their fairy dust, which was basically creative ideas that didn't cost a load of money but made a big
So you
impact.
had the ability to just kind of, I bet you believe this, like receive what was supposed to be received for that particular thing or show or whatever that you were trying to market, right? Because they needed the
Yeah,
creative juices, but you,
yeah.
because that's what you were. You said, "Listen, I'll do this, but I wanted to make sure that I can be creative with this."
Yes,
That's what you wanted
exactly.
to
And
do.
then, but what happened was I was working for a company called Can Do, and Can Do was the biggest late night venue operator in the United Kingdom. Second largest late night venue operator. And I was consulting for them, and I basically was working under the marketing director, and we used to go in and clear the buildings energetically.
Wow.
So I'd clear the buildings, do the market research on the actual space, and we'd build up these venues and then sell them for quite a lot of profit.
Okay.
So, so anyway, I used to come up with all these ideas. Like we'd put hell downstairs and heaven upstairs, and all these beds, and like obviously non-flammable curtains. And back in those days, we put like shisha pipes in them just before the smoking ban.
Wow.
Pipes and all of
That's
that. I mean,
that's a wild club right there.
it was quite, I mean, they were absolutely wild, but you see, they were valued, and of course, all of the competition used to, because we were taking all of it was very very busy, and everyone loved it. So they used to sell them for quite a lot of money, and then I used to get big bonuses, and then I'd just like go off and do it. I went to New York once, and I wanted to move my son because he was getting into trouble with graffiti, and I thought it was a good idea to move him to New York. So I went to New York on one of my bonuses, and that's where I met. All the people that I met
Hmm.
that connected me to you guys. So, but anyway, so the point was, I was working there. It was a come to Jesus moment. I hired an astrologer. This is what changed. This is the moment that changed everything for me.
Okay.
I wanted to build a team, and I used to go and see this psychic who was extremely manipulative, but she was the best teacher I have ever come across in terms of how not to be.
Okay.
Okay. I know. That's a solid point right there. Because people always
Yeah.
think teachers are always just going to give you positive, positive, positive.
Rose quartz crystals and dolphins and sweets.
Yeah, but you're like, this one taught you that I don't want to do that.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I
Extremely
I
manipulative.
I extremely manipulative, and so I never. I
Did
mean,
you
if
get
I've ever,
hooked on her manipulation? Is that what you found out? Like, what the
yeah,
heck? Why
I
am I
mean,
doing this?
I did I did in a way,
Okay.
and she like her psychic stuff was more like magic tricks. You know what I'm saying? And she said that she'd gone through the Kundalini awakening and all this stuff. And anyway, my point was she was extremely manipulative, but I believe one of the best teachers I've ever had, because when I deal with clients now, I'm very mindful.
Hmm.
I'm very mindful of what I say, what I do, and everything else, because it
Sure.
matters a lot.
Sure it does. Yeah.
Anyway, so I hired an astrologer. His name was Derek Hawkins, and he was definitely a gnome. He was a gnome. He was. He was a
What does
human
that mean?
gnome.
I'm sorry.
Do you know what a gnome is? You know, like the garden gnomes that you put in
Like a
Yeah.
little gnome.
Yeah.
He
That's
just
all I
looked.
was
He
picturing. Is
looked
just
like one, or what?
he looked a little bit like one, but he was just so magical and so like not human.
I got you. Okay, okay,
Do you
okay.
know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we call them like fairy folk. They're like people from the Shire in Lord of the
So
Rings.
that's why he
oh
was a
man, that's
gnome.
awesome.
Okay.
That's great.
One of my teachers, we call him Granddaddy Gnome. His name is Sir Tom Lucas, and he's genuine aristocracy, and he used to design racing car engines, and he says, well, darling, the physical form and the body is exactly the same as a racing car engine. He said they're very similar. you know and so he's a great. So I've had these really great teachers, but I also said this very manipulative psychic, she was best friends with an astrologer, and I was so desperate to learn astrology. I've always loved it, and I kept saying to her, please, please show me, and she said it's too complicated. But anyway, when I would go and work with someone new, I would find out their birth details, and I would ask this woman called, or I better not say her name. I would ask this woman if she would look at their charts for me and tell me what kind their personalities were like, so I could work with them properly.
Yeah, you want to learn. I get that.
Hit the ground running, so to speak. So anyway, but she wouldn't teach me. She said it's too complicated and I'm not taking on any students. And so anyway, I had this spiritual awakening, and I felt like I was working for a media company at the time. It broadcast a big awards show on TV, and I was working for them as an associate producer at the time. And I had this massive spiritual awakening that I felt like I could hear what was going on in people's minds. And a lot of the time I would say things and it was actually what was in their mind. So I went to see a healer, and she said to me, all your chakras have opened up, but you haven't done enough grounding. And until you do that grounding, this is going to destroy you. So
because you're just going
What do
to
you
be
think she
so
meant by
connected
that?
with all these people.
Was it just too overwhelming that it would just blow the circuit, or what?
blow the circuit, exactly.
Yeah.
Blow the
It
circuit.
needs to be able to reground and actually have a full,
It has to be, yeah. And
full cycle.
I think it happens to a lot of people, and they actually lose their minds.
Wowzers. Okay.
So I feel like it can happen in astrology. If you look and people have got Mercury, which represents the mind in the sign of Aquarius, it can often indicate that they need to be very careful with their minds, because they can literally short circuit. So anyway, I went to see a healer then, and I was listening to this woman, and this woman was talking about a friend of hers whose mother was a healer, and I knew instantly that I had to go and see her. And it was New Year's Eve, and I called her up and I said, I know it's New Year's Eve, but I really need a healing session. She said, come along. So I paid her, I had a session with her, and her name was Julie Soskin, and Julie Soskin's husband wrote the original Knights Templar. They're the guys that took Dan Brown to court. They lost, but it rocketed their book.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was very, very powerful. She had a school called the School of Insight and Intuition, where it was like Hogwarts. And so I started studying with her, and I started studying intuition, meditation, psychic sensitivity, and there I met my astrology teacher. So I hired him for one of my projects. I said to the CEO, listen, why don't we leak it to the press? Because there was this old building that was really haunted, and everyone used to moan about it. It was in Bournemouth, and it was opposite the grave of Mary Shelley, the writer of Frankenstein. Was it Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Mary Shelley, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe, if I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, she's buried at St. Peter's Church, and this was an old church hall, and it was we'll do another podcast on that. It was so haunted.
You were still working for this company where you'd go find buildings and revamp them.
Exactly.
While you
But
were
one of
doing-
these
Wow.
buildings,
While you
Yeah.
were like,
Amazing.
okay, while you were at Hogwarts.
yeah, I was
Effectively.
at Hogwarts. I never forget. I tuned into my intuition for the first time, and I said, "Oh, is this me talking? Is this me? Is this me getting all of this information?" And I heard very clearly, "Do you really think I would work with that ego?" I mean, the ego is still there.
It reminds me of when you were wearing all white in India and you stepped into cow poo and it came out clean, and then you tripped and it got covered all over you.
I was boasting, saying, "See, no matter what happens, I come out smelling like a rose," and then I tripped and landed in cow poo.
I was sitting there listening to this and I'm like, wait, you were like, you would have been like smelling it while you were like meditating and stuff,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I had to go. It was either that or miss the teaching with.
but they
with
didn't
the-
care. Those guys were like, whatever.
No,
I
when they're
was
so
like,
in
I'm
tune
not
with it. Yeah.
this teaching. I'm
Sorry,
going.
I apologize. So go back. So you're
You're at Hogwarts.
So
you had this
Mary
epiphany.
Scheller, yeah, I googled it.
Mary
You are
Shelley.
correct. Mary Shelley, she actually, yeah, Frankenstein author. So you're across where she was buried, right?
Yeah, yeah.
this
St.
building.
Peter's Church Hall, and we were turning it into. It was a club at the time, but it was really haunted. So I said to the CEO, "Look, I've got this really good idea. Why don't we bring in like Ghostbusters? Why don't we bring in like, do this whole spiritual thing? We'll build the team using an astrologer and leak it to the press." So the press loved it. They had a field day.
Well, yeah, of
You
course.
know, and so, but for me, I used to, if I had an idea, what I would do is make sure that it was marketable, but then bring the spirituality in so it worked for both sides.
Sure. I mean, that's smart. I mean,
worked on a spiritual level, but also worked on a material level. So
Interesting.
yeah, and then I worked with him every day for 6 months, and I started picking it up, and he took me on as a student, and so I started studying with him, and literally, I think within 2 years of me studying astrology, I was on live television doing it.
whoa.
What,
So as you mentioned, as a child, like it's not to say you can't just wake up one day and be like I want to study astrology. You were always connected to this
Yeah.
astrological world,
and you didn't
the
know
universe,
though
this
that was
consciousness.
No, I
astrology.
didn't know.
Yeah.
No,
No, it's just a language of energies, you see. And for me, it's one of the most beautiful languages in the world, as long as it's not used to be judgmental or bigoted or prejudiced in any way. Do you know what I mean?
absolutely,
Oh, you're
absolutely, yeah.
this, so you must be. Because the sign, that's why I call it dynamic astrology, because it's dynamic, it moves, it shifts depending on, because the chart is not you, it's like the car that you have to drive.
Yep, I get that.
So this is what I'd like to. So in that 6 months, this is a good bridge. So in the 6 months that you're studying with him, you realize at that point you're like, oh, I want to study astrology. Did you know exactly what you were getting into? Did you understand it was about energy? Because people, this is interesting because I've talked to people. I was just talking to my buddy this morning at the gym. I was telling him that how excited I was to chat with you, and I was just like, I was like, oh, you're a Leo, aren't you? He's just because I know because my son is also a Leo,
Yeah,
Louis the Leo, and he is a flipping Leo. But the thing is like you say that, and like he was like, yeah, but I feel like I feel like we all kind of we all have similar, like you could say that about anybody. We all have similar things. I'm like, well, yeah, that's the whole idea of the houses, and like we have like different,
exactly.
we have different
Yep.
parts of it, but I think they're
Exactly.
exemplified. And this is where I'd like to unpack a little bit more. It's maybe a little bit later, but when you said that, I was like, that's true. I think people just, this is where I love, this is, you make it very pragmatic. And that's what's beautiful about what you do. You are the medium to take all this like foo-foo and you bring
Thank
it
you.
down and make it very pragmatic, right? Which is what this book
Thank
does
you.
and what you do. And it's like, listen, I understand this could be viewed as foo-foo to people, but I want people to like understand this because I understand it and I am fun and I'm creative. And that's your ability, right? Like one of your abilities is to take this stuff that could be very difficult and you're just like, you make it to where everybody can understand it. And it's like, heck yeah, I
Exactly.
want to get on board with
Very
that.
simplistic, yeah.
So I think that's interesting to understand is you're studying with this guy, and for you, did you know this? Did you just know like, oh, I'm a Capricorn, or you're
Okay.
Aquarius if I
Yeah.
remember right? Yeah, yeah. So okay, Aquarius. Well, what does that mean? That means that you're a blah 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 blah, right? And it stops there. Or did you understand that there was much more beyond that?
From working with, I always, even when I was working with the very manipulative psychics, um, astrologer, I understood that there was much more because she would say, well, he's got Mercury in Leo, therefore he's really good with the law and
Yeah,
blah
there
blah
you go.
blah.
Yeah.
I knew it was much more, but I this is genuine. When I realized, when it helped me so much in my life to understand people because I just thought that people were from different planets and we all are. But it helped me so much. I wanted to, because I used to listen to them, everyone talking about astrology, and they would make it so complicated. Even my teacher, bless him, it was so complicated, and I was just like, listen, I have to simplify this because I want everyone to be able to do this themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the birth charts, and I love how you said it's a different language. You call it the star language, right? And there's different languages just on Earth, and when you look at this birth chart, it's very overwhelming to look at all these little symbols and all these different things, and it's very easy for people to get very complex with it and start throwing all kinds of different stuff.
Well, they start
But
talking about trines and conjunctions and
well, yeah,
midheavens and everything else, and it's just it doesn't need to be that complex.
and you're meanwhile you're still just talking about the rising sign, like it's just one thing that, and there's so many different things that are part of it. So just in the first, I would say maybe 4 pages of your book, I was like, holy shit, this is
I
it.
love
Like
that.
the hell with Google, the hell with anyone else. This
Thank you.
book, if anyone has not gotten it, you got to get it. It definitely, I'm not going to say it dumbs down the astrology world, but it makes it more, like you said, pragmatic. And as a Capricorn, based on what I learned in your book, I am nothing but pragmatic in my good trait, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, like you said, it's probably something that I can very easily learn and develop a skill for because the pragmatic, the logic of it, all that stuff makes sense once you understand that language.
Yeah, I
So
think so.
there's a sentence I wanted to read, and I think it's perfect, and it'll
Sorry about
help.
that.
Oh, it's
Hi.
The sirens go past here. Welcome to London.
yeah. I was gonna say, are you in London? Are you?
Yeah.
Is it one of those? Again, I've never been to London, so excuse the
Yeah,
ignorant
they're right.
question. But I see like it's like over here in the States we call them brownstones. That's like effectively where people
Yeah.
live in. It's like a townhome
I
effectively.
know brownstones. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's effectively what it is. Like most people live in something like that, right? Like
Well,
along like a
Unless you're on the countryside.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of those, but they're usually they're the sort of light grey in color, and you get like
okay, yeah.
the Georgian and Victorian ones, but not most. I mean, there's so many different, and we have loads of projects here as well. Do you know what I mean? And flats, and it's just it's very similar. It's very similar to New York, London.
Okay.
So I would say
Okay.
it's very similar to New York, and you have like Westchester County and Rochester and places like that.
Yeah.
We have that as well, like La Rochelle, and we have that as well. It's called um, the commuters belt. So it's like
Okay.
they have like big fancy houses, but they also have projects everywhere as well. So like you've got a place like Notting Hill. Have you seen Notting Hill with
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Grant? You know the film. Well, that's
Yep.
like that's near Notting Hill is very fancy, and then you've got Ladbroke Grove, which is there's very fancy houses next to projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very, very. I'd say that the reason I love London so much is because it's so multicultural, and it's just. I mean, if you start going out into Middle England, it's not like that at all.
No, it's there. You've got so many. I mean, Africans and Indians alone. There are so many and different cultures there, right? And people from. I mean, people don't realize like there are a lot of people from Latin America in London as well.
Well, it's there's
I
people
mean, it's
from
all
all over the
over.
world
Yeah, it's
here.
literally all over the place. But so anyway, there's this one sentence, and I think this would be good, and you can kind of use this as a base, a springboard to carry on the conversation. But it's honestly on page 3 in the intro. It says, "I know that when dynamic astrology is used as a tool to enhance self-awareness, it helps us to navigate a much smoother path through our lives." So let's talk about that. Like this is where you're talking about astrology. Like how's this helpful? Like why is it good for me to know that that I'm a Scorpio, right? And we can kind of before answering the whole thing about like actually directly answering that, let's just kind of unpack it a little bit more.
I
Astrology
think,
in general.
yeah, I think for me, it's not just about understanding myself. It's about understanding the people that are around me and my loved ones. You know what I'm saying? So when you understand, like for instance, I'm so sorry. Let me just have a little sip of this. Sorry, my throat.
Yeah.
No, you're good. Yeah, you can put yourself on mute or whatever and take care of what you got to do.
So I should have done that. Sorry about that. Everyone's listening to me gulp with my water. It's water
Listen,
by
we love organic conversations. This is real people, okay? Not the, filtered out stuff.
very real. I'm very sick, but the show must go on. So I think astrology in general is it's it's a code to understand human behavior. That's what it is effectively, and it's also a code to read and manage energy. And I don't think there's anything like it.
I agree. I
And
agree
I
with
think,
that.
yeah, and I think when you understand yourself, like for example, if you're prone to taking things personally, that's usually a lot of Sansa. Some say Cancer, I say Sansa, Sansarian in your chart. Once you know that, you can laugh at yourself a bit more. And just be sort of like, oh, I'm about to take this really personally. Or if someone said something to me the other day and said, oh, you're very confident, and you can sometimes be, quite speak quite quickly, which makes you can sometimes come across as being a bit aggressive. And I just thought, okay, so in 20 seconds I could take that personally, or I could just say, well, that's your opinion, and
You could try to keep up.
yeah, keep up, but but
Keep
but
up.
but, it, but it's almost like. But then I thought to myself, is there any learning in there for me? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's her opinion of me, you know, a lot of it is projection anyway, because she's very, very, but I'd say I'm more assertive than, I wouldn't say I'm aggressive, and but I could come across that way to someone, and then so it becomes my business to look into that and think to myself, is there any learning in that for me? And I was speaking to I know it sounds like very first world problems here. I was speaking to my beauty therapist about it, and she said to me, "Oh, Caroline, you're a much better person than I am." You know,
Sorry, I have
because,
to go back to that.
sorry. And she said, I know, right? First world problem. So she said, "Oh, Caroline, you're a much better person than I am because I would have reacted to that and said, what do you mean? And you think I'm aggressive or anything." Uh, but I said, but I've been studying myself and self-awareness for so many years that if I reacted like that, I wouldn't have learned anything.
Sure. And that's kind of where all of us should be, right? I mean, it should or could be is probably the
Could
better.
be,
Yeah,
or
could be is
or will
the
be.
the intentional life, as opposed to if someone that could be reactive, they're not being intentional with why we're here. It's far easier for people, it seems, especially because I've been talking about this intentional life, probably what, Jared, now going on 2-3 years, and it's the people that are reactive. It seems like it's the people that don't want to learn about themselves. It's the
Yeah,
people that are either fine or they don't even want to try because trying seems too much energy. They're like,
yeah.
it's hard work to be like, I don't want to go and do all that because I'm fine with where I'm at. But at the same time, it's a vicious cycle that they're in where they're not fine. They're just being reactive and they're just getting by
Being
and day
reactive
after day after day.
and getting angry. But so back to Jared's question, in
Hmm.
terms of astrology, if I hadn't have studied, spirituality and Buddhism and astrology, I would never be in a place because I just laughed it off. Do you know what I'm saying? And I was thinking to myself, well, when my beauty therapist was saying, well, I wouldn't have reacted like that. I would have gone, I would have really reacted and been like, well, actually, you're aggressive and you're just projecting on. I just thought, but where's the growth in that? And I think when you're on this journey, the interactions that we have is almost like you look at someone from an astrological perspective. So it's almost like, okay, I know that this person is an Aries, so she can sometimes speak a little bit off the cuff without thinking. Generally speaking, if we're generalizing, sometimes Aries can be a bit like that. They're a bit bolshy and rash. But she also has a lot of Sansa in her chart. So there could be some level of projection onto me of how she is. But if she's still thinking that there are certain circumstances that I can be like that, then I can improve.
That's
Well, better for someone to say something than not.
yeah.
I mean, I was
And if
just
you're,
thinking that. I mean, that's how I receive things. Like, I'm almost like, thank you, because I'm constantly like trying to improve, and
yeah,
I can only see so much in my own head and my own filter.
Right.
But when people like tell me certain things, and I see it
yeah,
most with my wife, of course, right? Like, yeah, yeah. So it's I'm like, okay, that's good. That's good to know, and I take it and then I internalize it. Obviously, you did as well. You're telling me about it. You told your what did
beauty
you call it?
Beauty
Your
therapist.
beauty
therapist. What
therapist.
is a beauty therapist? I've never heard of that. Is that like a
I think
cosmetologist
she made
person?
that
Like,
up. It's a guy. But she's saying that because it's like a barber. You just talk to him about whatever.
Do I look like I've been to the barbers lately?
I mean,
I,
it
it
could
looks
be
really
it could
good
be
to
a
me. I
look.
don't.
It looks good, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. It feels like a wig at the moment. It really needs a good scrub. It really does. It needs a good scrub. I'm
So
here. I'm here. I showed up.
hey,
I
seriously,
love it.
and
Well, I'm gonna touch on real quick because in my line of work, especially in working in human resources, we were taught Myers-Briggs personality types,
Oh, I love that.
and also just before I even got into that, I did some research and dove into love languages. So, in your mind, what comes first? Is it the astrological baseline of who we are, which helps define the Myers-Briggs, or the chicken or the egg kind of analogy here?
I don't think I understand the question. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so we have love language, we have personality type, and then you have your astrological signs.
Yeah.
Are they all connected? And if so, which one would come first? Is it our astrological signs where we're born at a certain time?
I think so. I
Certain.
think, yeah, I think for me, I think Myers-Briggs is really interesting. So I'm a commander, my two friends are commanders, and that to me, commander energy is very Capricorn. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like for me, I think that they all work hand in hand, but I feel like your astrology chart starts at the beginning because with a child, I think it's too soon to look at a child's chart in full. but I do look at where their moon sign is, because that's how to nurture them. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I feel like because the birth chart is, I think it's a good idea to do birth charts for parents, and
That's a
show
good
them where they're.
perspective. Yeah. If I hear you right, because if you look at to do Myers Briggs, right, personality types. Like I'm a protagonist. I'm ENFJ. And okay, that's great. But when you've got a kid, it's hard because they're still developing and they're figuring
Well,
themselves out,
exactly.
and that, you know what I mean. And so it's like, how do you answer the questions or totally fully understand until you
Yeah.
understand them better? But you're saying the basics, like the language, right, is just astrology,
Yeah,
understanding, the
I
moon,
think
the
so.
house.
But if you
Um,
think of, yeah,
hmm.
and exactly, it's understanding. So the planet represents what? What does that mean for Jared? The sign is, how does that work for Jared? And the house is, where does that work for Jared?
Right.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, that's how you break it down.
That's how you break it down. And I think, but I think it's not rigid. It changes day by day, and I think for your own children, learn where their moon signs are, because then you can nurture them like my son has the moon in Taurus, and so
Okay.
Taurus is very he likes home cooked food, and he always used to say,
That's
well,
your
it's
job,
your
woman.
job. It's your job, woman. I told you that before, right? I used to say it's
Well, you
not my
said it
job.
in the
Oh,
Soho. Yeah, you're like, that's your job, woman.
he was half being funny, but then half not being
I
funny,
know.
like saying, actually, it's your
But once
job
you
to
feed
be.
him, then he's totally fine. He's like,
Yep.
yeah,
Big fan, he gets hangry.
yeah,
He
very
gets
angry.
angry. Yeah.
And people, I totally
Hungry,
understand.
hungry and angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But also on an emotional level, Taurus don't like surprises.
Well, I know that. Yeah.
So it's like if we're generalizing here, so someone who has moon in Taurus, you have to build up to something slowly. So it's almost like to say, okay, so honey, on Saturday, I'm taking you to XYZ, and we're going to do this, 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 this.
Hmm.
So we can build up to it slowly, rather than on waking up one morning and being spontaneous and saying, whereas I'm fine with spontaneity, but when he was growing up, he wasn't so great with spontaneity.
Yeah,
I'm not allowed to talk about him. He's going to kill me if he listens to this. So
yeah. I have a son who's very similar. My oldest, he very much is a planner, and he just needs to know, right? And
yeah, detail.
he's oh my gosh, he's June. Is Capricorn?
Which
No.
one? June. He's
June.
Gemini.
Gemini. I'm
Gemini.
sorry. He and the oldest and youngest, my kids are Geminis. Excuse me. They're both
Geminis.
My
Geminis. Yeah.
daughter's a Gemini, so yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know him well enough. I gotta be candid, Caroline. But by them, I'm talking about the signs and everything else. Like I know
Yeah.
my son, and
Yeah.
I know my daughter. And it's funny. You look at them. It's just like my daughter is very spontaneous, and my son
Yeah.
is like the opposite. And they're literally 6 days apart, birthdays.
It's so interesting. So it's almost like oh, that's interesting. So in your chart, I'm just looking at your chart, Jared. You have your moon sign is Leo. So for your moon sign is Leo. But what I'm looking at is you've got Chiron, which is the karmic wound and where you heal, in the sign of Gemini. So they've healed you in many ways. It's in the seventh house.
I was gonna say,
I
where the
see
heck is
that.
that? Seventh house. Got it. Where's my moon sign?
So your
Again,
moon sign is in the eighth
Eighth.
house. Your moon sign is Leo. So on the website, have you touched it? Have you
Hmm.
clicked on the
I have.
symbols?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I did it from my phone when I did it. That's
You
Yeah.
should still
probably.
be able to touch on it. The reason I did that
I
was
did.
oh
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
yeah.
Your
Yeah,
website. Not to use the same words,
It
but
was
it's very
fantastic.
dynamic.
Well, I
thank
know.
you.
No,
It's.
no, it was. I remember doing it because when Sam and I we were together looking at it and
Mhm.
studying this together like a month or
Yep.
so ago, and I remember clicking on it. Yeah, and it defines it. But keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so basically, Gemini energy actually heals you. So they're just you're their children, and you're their caretaker, and you're their
I need
guardian.
two apparently. I need two
Huh?
of them. I need a lot of healing.
Well, that's Gemini, the twins, isn't it? So they're both completely opposite, but they provide different things for you.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
it,
That's funny.
it's
That's interesting. It looks like my moon sign is also in Gemini.
your moon is Gemini, but
For the
Jared's
love.
moon is Leo.
Got
So
it.
so your power is actually the power of love, and when you have an open heart, this is when Jared has an open heart. This is when, I mean, well, we all have open hearts, but for you, I'd say that you're learning how to operate with a much more open heart than you used to.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, as his brother, I can tell you that it is for
So
sure
hold on,
true.
let me say what you just said. You're saying I'm currently learning how to operate more with an open heart than I used to.
You're operating from a much more a much wider heart space than you used to before, because I don't know why, but you've got, so Lilith is, see, what's interesting about your chart is you've got Lilith right next to the moon. So you've got the moon sign, which is the light side of the moon, and then you've got Lilith,
Yep.
which is also
Right
in
next to it. Look
Leo,
at that.
right next to it.
Yeah.
You see,
I don't know
so
what Lilith is. I'm sorry.
so Lilith is so it's basically, I believe that Leo is all about courage, it's about heart, it's about putting your heart into things without expectation, so to speak. And I feel like when you became a father, this enabled this to really happen. You know, you're learning, even though you have it for your brother and your family already, your children are like a different level. So it's like you've learned, you're operating now from a heart, much bigger heart space.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's not much fear.
Yeah,
There's
your
a lot.
intentions. So you're operating your intentions in your life are more open. Would you say that they're more operated with his kids in mind?
I think becoming a father has softened him in a
Mm-hmm.
way.
Whew.
No, 100% it has. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know
You
me
know
what's
what
too.
I'm
interesting?
saying?
Here's
Yeah.
an example. If you just said, operate with courage and with heart without expectations. I'll tell you kind of the last 8 months, and it's potentially because it's funny. I don't think about some of these things. It just is very natural for me. And this is the whole idea of this energy and stuff. And this is, I'd like, this is why, this is the part where I'd like to unpack a little bit more. And I'm trying to be cognizant of the fact that you're not feeling well, and I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's
we
fine. I'm
we
fine at
can
the
we'll
moment.
pick
It's
up
fine.
we can pick up somewhere else, but this is like Sam and I were really excited to unpack this too. But basically, we there's more to unpack, but effectively the last 8 months, right? I moved my family and we moved to Pennsylvania from Utah. Okay. And so we're in Utah, and I'm working in Utah, and then we moved to Pennsylvania. And
I love Pennsylvania.
yeah, I'm from PA. So Sam lives here in PA. I'm from
I do.
PA. I live near Lancaster, PA. Sam's about an hour and a half north, in Allentown area where we grew up. We grew up in Nazareth, which is just east of Allentown. But anyway, I moved here to be closer to family, and my wife and I always wanted to move here because we wanted to get land and the whole thing. Well, we moved here, bought a house, and it was kind of a stepping stone, right, to get us closer to. We wanted to be in a stronger position financially to where we can just buy the land and kind of do it the way we want to do it with cash.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was the whole dream. And we decided, now's time. And we want to be closer to my parents as well, who are, aging more quickly. And so we're like,
Yeah.
let's get out there, let's make it happen. And so, luckily at my work, I was able to work remotely, and that everything worked out. With that wasn't an issue. We moved out here, October of last year. We're out here, and things are evolving with my work, so much so that it made it so that I would be in a stronger position with my career if I moved back to Utah. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I would have been like, are you serious? We just moved out here, right? Forget the financial burden and everything else, but the kids, uprooting them, they're now at the age where it's kind of like it matters. It's starting to kind of matter. I got 4 of them, and they're age 6 to 11, effectively.
Yeah.
Especially the older ones, it's starting to really matter. So I'm like,
Yeah.
man, this is hard. This is like the time we got to do it. And that we kind of felt that pressure, and we're like, let's just go. Let's go to PA. Come to PA, January, February this year, we're looking at each other. We're like, is this seriously happening? Do we really feel like we need to move back? And we had done this before when we moved to Hawaii for 8 days. That's another whole other story. Legit sold everything, put it all we owned in 4 boxes, shipped our car, moved to Hawaii, only to freaking move 8 days later. But anyway,
Wow.
so we're like, okay, we're moving back to Utah. Long story short, Caroline, we're moving back to Utah. So we decided, hey, let's move back to Utah. All right, this is better. It feels good and it feels right. But for me, it's like this whole idea of like moving with courage and heart without expectations. It's like, is that what it is? Is that like going to be my life? Like, can I just I'm fine with
bouncing
I
around?
want to have I'm fine with having the base. I'm fine with like, hey, listen, if I'm going to be in Utah for the next 10 whatever years, that's fine. Like I want to be able to still travel and go to a bunch of different places and things.
Yeah.
But I certainly do that. Like I look at just different things I've done in kind of side hustles and stuff like that as well, where I've just kind of done it, and I'm just like, let's just go after it and do it. I mean, and it was oftentimes without even making any money, right? Initially, you just kind of getting after it. But Anyway, that was all. I don't really know what that gave you. Hopefully something, but basically, yeah, that's kind of, when you said that, it made me think of that.
I think I think that's the key about astrology is that whatever it triggers for you, that's what it is. It just, do you see what I'm trying to say? Because it's almost like when a lot of the time people will say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" I'm like, "Well, what do you think I mean by that? What do you think I mean by
Right?
that?"
How's it hitting you? How's it vibrating with
It's
you?
what's it triggering? What's it bringing up for you? And your Mars sign is in the sign of Libra in the 10th house, and the 10th house is the house of marriage and partnerships. And so you do very well with your partner when you make decisions together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like your Mercury is in the sign, your mind is in the sign of Scorpio. So you're really intuitive. So following your hunches is a really good thing to do. And even if you went somewhere for 8 days, who knows what you missed or didn't miss, if
Hmm.
that makes sense, in those 8 days. It's like following your intuition and also being free. Being free to explore and trusting your instincts, because one of sorry to go on, but I just want to say one thing. I was saying this to a friend of mine. The greatest gift we can teach our children is resilience.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So if you need to move to Utah or back to Pennsylvania, just move.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you
You
know what
just
I'm
do it.
saying? They
Yeah.
will make new friends, because the thing is that they might be in jobs when they're older. They'll be in jobs for a couple of years. They'll make loads of friends. And if they haven't had that experience, they might be too frightened to go and do a better job where they have to meet all new people all over again. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's
100%.
it's like,
Yep. Your
Yeah. I
life
mean,
is being
like,
naturally led to create that resilience in your
one of the most
kids.
important tools is
Yeah.
resilience, because that's what life's about, man. It's
right.
constantly ever changing. You know,
Yeah.
you reminded me, it was about February when I was debating the decision. Mainly the thought was, why did we come here now? Like what? Like I would have been fine coming here a few years from now or whatever, but like why did that have to happen? Like why could I not have been received the inspiration to just stay there, for freaking 8 months? Like it would have been okay. And I said those words in my head, and then right away I was like, no, you wouldn't have been. You would not have been okay.
Yep.
Right? It's me talking to myself like, shut up, bro. That's not true. You would not have been okay.
Yeah, you would have been
Now
constantly
you
thinking about it.
know.
Yeah.
Now you did it, right?
Exactly. Or you
Twenty
would have lived with
thousand
your
dollars
dad.
later, it's fine. You can move twice.
Make it again.
Luckily, financially, you're in a position where you can do it. It's not like you want to just piss away $20,000 and moving, but
No.
it's like you just you still. It was a great learning, and it was
Exactly.
man. I'm so grateful. And there's so many other things. Like we've unpacked different things, and like anyway, but it was funny because it was very clear to me, and it was like me talking to myself. Like, no, you wouldn't have been. Like, it's just
Exactly, but that's the thing. I think following your instincts. I live a very intuitive life, and it's served me very well.
yeah, yeah. It seems like it has.
And you continue down that path. It's not like, well, yeah, I went down the wrong path. No, I went down this way because I needed to. I needed to
Yeah,
learn from it. Yeah.
but also it's like if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I have to fess up and own it.
So you
And I
feel
make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah. You feel the energy. Is there anything else? What Sam and I, what we'd like to do is maybe prior to this, but we'd like to, as much as energy as you have right now, just to unpack a little bit more our houses and kind of the whole chart here. But like prior to that, is there anything else with before we even get into that? And I know any other things about astrology that you want to unpack and kind of talk about. I mean, I like the idea of the energy thing, right? Because I do understand that and I respect that. And I do think, again, coming from a believing that there is an actual being God, right? And that from that perspective, I do believe that God follows celestial principles.
Well, yeah, wise men
Hmm.
follow the stars, right? They
Yep.
say,
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's celestial principles that he follows, right? And there's all these like, and I do believe that. So that's what I'm saying about like astrology. That I believe there's a lot of truths in that, right? And so this is like, I don't want people like for the Christian people that are going to be listening and be like, oh, this is complete hocus. It's like, there's so much truth around us, and there's so much universal principles that ties together, and that's
exactly.
what I'm trying to understand here. If there's anything else there that you want to shed light on.
Yeah. For the people that like what Jared's talking about that are potentially taken back by the astrology aspect of like, this is way too foo-foo for me. Like my God doesn't do this,
Yeah,
but
exactly. That. Yeah, he never
where
told me
we're
that in the
coming
Bible.
from.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, he never told me that in the Bible. Like where my perspective is, this is a freaking sweet tool that it
It
doesn't matter what God you have. It's a tool because the stars are
is.
around all of us,
Yeah.
and it all is actual in our lives. Why not use just one of these tools? If people
Exactly.
believe in love language, that's a tool. If people believe in personality types, that's another tool
Yeah,
to help
Great
you
exactly.
tool.
guide throughout life. So, yeah. So,
I agree, Sam. And I think the other thing is that as long as it's used with love,
yeah, yeah.
as long as it's used with love, because there are many people that you can use astrology to read the financial markets. JP Morgan was he has a very famous quote online. It says JP Morgan's he said, to become a millionaire is easy, to become a billionaire takes good astrology.
Oh,
And he worked with an
interesting.
astrologer. She was like the first celebrity astrologer in the world, probably. And she was an American astrologer called Evangeline Adams, Aquarius again. But he didn't always use it as a force for good.
Okay.
No. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
No,
He launched the world's first
he's.
billion-dollar corporation, US Steel, and he very much used astrology. I mean, if you only have to go to
How
the
do you
JP
use
Morgan
it?
Museum.
Like, what do you mean
Uh,
he used astrology? We're talking
he
about my
used
chart here, but how did he use it? An example. What do you think?
he didn't understand astrology. I mean, I'm sure he understood it, but he used an astrologer called Evangeline Adams to consult him. So he would basically, I'm sure, it's very much like when's good dates to launch, when are good dates to launch this, when is a good time to do that. Is this because astrology is also the best astrologers have a very strong sense of logic as well, because it's all about interpretation. Because all it is I'll just show you. So this is an ephemeris. I don't know if you'd be able to see this if I try and put it up to the camera. Can you see that?
It's a lot of numbers or symbols. Yeah.
So this is an ephemeris,
Okay.
and
Wow.
this is basically from 2000 to 2050.
Okay.
And so it's every planetary alignment and movement from 2020, from 2000, the year 2000 to the year 2050. And so Evangeline Adams would have used an ephemeris like that.
So,
To make decisions on
yeah,
on
give me like an
on.
example of how I would say that. Like just it could be something, whatever. I come to you. What kind of question would I ask you, and how would you utilize that?
So for instance, that's not really. I mean, I do have a client who I work with, two clients actually that I work with, who like to check dates for stuff, and they do different things. So for instance, they have like they launch different things. So they would be asking, when is the best date to do this? And I was like, well, that's not a great day to do that, because your energy is going to be quite low on that particular day and you need to have lots of energy. So why don't you choose that day instead?
Mm,
Okay.
So
understand.
Wow.
it's not necessarily, I don't believe that anything is fixed, because if she wanted to use a particular day, or he wanted to use a particular day, there's always ways around it. But if your energy is going to be a little bit low,
Hmm.
then it's good to know that and not push yourself too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Using it as
Or
a tool.
surround
Yeah.
yourself with people that can pick up the slack.
Yep. Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Wow. You mentioned two clients. So is this a common practice from large corporations, people in businesses? Is this just one of them that you know of, like JP Morgan?
I
Or
mean, I'm sure that there are big companies that have I mean, I don't tend to work with big companies using astrology, just because I just don't. I work with individuals that work in big companies, and they have very sort of prominent positions in big companies all over the world. But I don't. I mean, I was going to do a big team building for a big music label, one of the biggest music record labels in the world, but something happened and it didn't quite work out. So, I mean, it might still happen in the next couple of months, but I would have been working with 26 of their staff.
goodness. Okay.
So how?
Teach Teaching them astrology, how to utilize it in your everyday life.
Well, yes, but also doing a team building exercise with them.
Okay.
It's like using their charts. So it would basically be, telling them what a lot about their charts, but also, just different stuff. But I mean, I have worked with groups, but I do sort of events and things like that, and
Yeah.
talks and
So you're
stuff.
more one-on-one really right now.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
you
work with couples as well, and I work with, yeah, but I'm more one-on-one really. Yeah.
Hmm. It seems like it would obviously be the most beneficial to be one-on-one because you're reading individual charts because each person has their own language. So to do that as a group, it's not impossible, but it can be very, very draining. Number one, as an astrologer, or two, it could be just time consuming itself.
I've done it a few times for groups, and I find it really interesting. I've done it for like
Hmm.
families and family dynamics.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it's quite interesting. It's the only time it's draining is if people bring big egos and I can't read them properly
Okay.
Yeah, they're not
because they
open.
won't
They're
let
not
me
open.
read them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's fascinating. And I think however you want to now unpack, looking at our charts, and you already talked about two things from mine. I think there's some things in that people can understand, because the whole point is obviously we want people to learn about you, but just make it a little bit more approachable, right? Make this language a little bit more approachable. And I think in getting the book, that'll be really helpful for people listening to this. Will help them
Yeah.
understand, like, oh, this is actually isn't so weird. Okay, this is kind of interesting. And I think
Okay, so
unpacking the charts would help. Good.
yeah, so Jared, if I don't know if you can, when
I
this
got it
goes
right here.
live, if you can flash up the section that I'm talking about, is that how this is going to work? Are you able to do
We
that?
could, yeah, we'll
Yeah,
figure it
it's a
out.
video aspect. We'll try to do that. Yep.
Yeah, so basically I'm looking at so the sun sign and the star sign are one and the same thing, right? So your sun sign is the same thing as your star sign, and your star sign or your sun sign is in the sign of Scorpio. So the sun represents what? What does that mean for Jared? That's your self-identity in one way, or the outer jacket that you have to wear. So you're learning how to become more Scorpio, right? Which is stepping into your own power, learning about empathy, basically going through the whole process of birth, death, transformation, and change whilst you're alive.
That's every
Right?
human though, right? Going through that whole cycle,
Not
or more
not like
me,
a
more
Scorpio.
Scorpios.
More
Not
Scorpio
like a
based.
Scorpio. Scorpio is usually that experience is usually a lot more intense.
Yeah, and the experience again is going through. You said life, death, or
Birth, death,
birth, death,
transformation, and
transformation.
change. So
Okay.
it's like like an ego death, or the death of an old situation and the rebirth of another new one.
Constant evolving. How about that?
Yeah, constantly evolving and changing, and yours, and it's in the 11th house, and the 11th house is the house of. Yeah, so you've also got like Pluto in there. The 11th house is the house of. We'll open the signs on the 11th house and see pick out some keywords from the 11th house. I think it's at the back. So I'll just keep talking, but if you find the 11th house, because you've got a very strong 11th house, and the reason I say that is because you've got Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio in the 11th house. So it's very strong for you. The 11th house is, see if you can pull out any.
You said it's towards the back. Oh, 12th house, 11th house.
326, page 326, I believe, Jared.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm right there. 11th
House of
house.
Humanity.
Uh, okay, what did you want me to do? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just pull out any words that jump out at you.
Okay. Associated with socializing. Excuse
Yes.
me. Media, intellectual connections in particular, networking,
Yes.
Sheesh.
awareness. Yeah, I mean that's like all of those
Yeah.
hit
Yeah.
groups. So yeah,
Growing up, that's what Jared, I remember him, he loved networking. Loved
yeah. I mean
talking to
I love
people,
people, right? I love just
just
love.
learning about people, just
That's
connecting with
it's
them.
the
Yeah.
11th house. So you
Yeah.
see your power, because
Yeah.
Pluto, wherever Pluto is in someone's chart, is their power. So your power comes from groups, socializing, networking, awareness, all the things that are in the 11th house. Make sense?
Interesting.
So it's almost like cracking a code. And I always say when you're using the book, look at what jumps out at you. Don't have to read it cover to cover. So if you're looking at, for you, you would look at the sun, then you would see what jumps out at you. Then you would look at Scorpio, see what jumps out at you. Then you would look at 11th house and see what jumps out at you. But I'm just giving you my interpretation of that. Your power lies in the realms of the 11th house. But, I think you have a strong possibility of making your podcast really successful as well. Because the 11th house is anything that connects to the masses.
Sure. Let's get on it, bro. That's what she's trying to
Well,
say.
yeah. I mean, I guess that's the whole media and intellectual connections in particular. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I'm starting to flag a little bit now, though, I'm afraid, because I'm not feeling so great. So Shall we say like another? Do you mind if we do another 10 minutes?
Yeah,
Totally
Is
fine.
that all right?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not feeling so great. I'm starting to flag a little bit.
That's okay.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. We can end it now too. I want to
No,
respect
no,
your
no. Let's
feelings.
do let's
Okay,
not just do it. Let's do it properly. So if we know
okay.
that we've got like
Perfect.
10 minutes, let's continue. So shall we look? So that was a little bit of Jared's chart.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's switch over to me as far as the power. So we'll keep in line with the power of we got Jared's power now. What's
Yeah, because that was a
in
big question that we had, and that helps us understand that. And I think other people, of course.
yeah,
Yeah, and so Pluto, let's have a look where Pluto is in your chart. So your Pluto is also in Scorpio and it's in the ninth house. So quickly flick to the ninth house a second. I'll give you my interpretation of it, but I want to see what you find first.
ninth house. There's fourth, sixth. I was going back and forth. Everyone that's listening, this book is amazing. Like when you get involved, like I was just back and forth. I think I
It's a
got locked
reference
in
guide,
for a
right?
few
Like,
hours. Yeah, I was just like, "What is this? What is this?"
Oh, I
So
love
it was
that.
amazing. So the way you designed the book was awesome.
Thank you.
All right, give me a moment here to look at
Yeah, no
the.
worries. So your Pluto, so wherever Pluto is in someone's chart represents their power. Yours is in the sign of Scorpio, so it's a double whammy for you because Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio.
Got it. So for me, what stands out is learning, studying, and academia.
There you go. So
So
anything that expands your mind is really good for you. So when you say you're reading lots of stuff, the one thing I'd say you have to be careful of is because you've got the moon in Gemini, is starting lots of stuff and not finishing it.
sure, that's me in books. I think I got like 20 books that are not finished.
Yeah, but that's okay because you'll garner lots of different information out of it.
Right.
It's just what I'm saying is that like it's it's different with a book like the Signs because that's it. That is a dip in and dip out one when you're doing someone's chart. But if you're reading something that's like really deep and deeply spiritual, finish the whole thing
Got it. That makes sense. So
because that
what also comes sticks out to me is negative feelings about religion.
interesting.
Yeah, that's huge because
spirituality and religion, but particularly a negativity around that.
yeah, wow, that is very interesting.
You
Yeah, I
see,
mean,
but the thing is that your power actually comes when you find your own way.
For sure. And that's where the journey that I'm
yeah,
on
that's
right
where he's
now
at
in
right
my
now.
life.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I'm at for everyone that's listening is the background. So in this novel that I'm creating, it talks about this religious background that I had that started this journey for me. So as I'm reading and deep diving into all this information, that's very interesting that the ninth house, that negative feelings about religion.
It's
Uh,
it's it's
and it's
in
not, I won't even say negative feelings, but it's definitely more of I align very much with you, Caroline. So
yeah.
you and I are very synergetic with this, where I don't, there's a time and place for religion, but it's not for everyone,
No, it's not.
right?
It's almost about spirituality and also trying to be the best version of
Hmm.
ourselves that we can possibly be and just being nice people. I mean the thing is that, a lot of the time people think that, you know, really spiritual people, the best spiritual people I know, they've got very strong boundaries and they're not frightened to tell someone to F off.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
No,
You know what
100%.
I
They
mean?
know. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't do this. I don't do that. I'm not interested in that. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, and boundaries. It's almost like, oh, well, you're a really spiritual person, therefore you should help this person, or you should do that, or I'll never forget. This one person emailed me once and said, oh, sent me this really long email saying about how they were drowning and they were having a really hard time, and they said that they couldn't afford my rates, so they wanted me to work with them. So I said to them, now bear in mind that, my rates are my rates because I've been doing what I do for many, 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 many moons, and I'm good at what I do, and so that's the reason why my rates are my rates. But if someone is genuine and they really wanted to work with me and they don't have, they can't manage my rates, as long as it's genuine, and I'm happy to try and work with people. Do you see what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
it's as long as I have the time and the energy and
This
everything else.
expectation, like, hey, you're this person, you need to help people. It's your
You
calling,
need to
your
help me.
obligation to help people. Yeah,
Yes. So
I get
this
it.
this this I do help people. I write stuff. I help people. I help, do it. I do it creatively. So, I help people in my daily routine because I try and bring a sense of joyfulness and lightness and kindness wherever I go. But she sent me this email, very long email, pouring all her worries and woes on, and said, look, will you help me? So I said, yes, I will help you, but you need to get hold of a copy of the signs. So we've got a framework to work with. And she got back to me and said, you can pick up a copy of the signs secondhand for like $5. She said, I can't afford that. How dare you insinuate? You said that you were going to help people. You're supposed to be spiritual. And I just said, I cannot work with you. I'm really sorry. Because the thing is that you're in front of a computer, you're emailing me, you've got the internet, you're living in the West, you're living in America. And if you can't get together $5 to work with someone like, I'm not saying it in a very arrogant way, but someone like me.
Yeah.
$5 was the only investment that I asked that she made.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she wasn't going to be ready.
I hate to call her crazy, but I mean, that's.
Well, she wasn't willing to make any. It's more the principle. She wouldn't have done anything even beyond. Like, you would have worked with her, and she would have had all kinds of complaints. Like,
you're right, Jared. You're absolutely. And it wasn't about the $5. It was about there has to be an investment. And if I'm saying, because the thing is, like I was saying to you about doing the breathing, the same thing that you say to people when they come on your workshops, you know, when you're dealing with a crisis, take your deep breaths because, your higher self, your energy will take over. It's like, if you cannot make any investment, I cannot help you, because what you'll do is you'll make me drown with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're gonna suck into that energy. So I get that. Yeah, and with the boundaries, so you have to set your boundaries.
You have to have boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to deep dive again when we can, literally just on birth charts. How to, from a perspective, if we can in another episode at some point down the road.
Of course.
Just simplistic, obviously taking out of your book, more simplistic than even in your book. So if you and I were on a street and we were sitting at a bench, and you had like 20 minutes to explain to somebody about astrology, how to read it, and how to simplify it, that's what I would love to try. Because it's more, the show is all about teaching people the practical use of these tools. So yeah, I would love to at some point down the line. But I think we need to respect your time, and we should end the show.
I would love to do that. Maybe we can get people that listen in to send us some questions.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah. And what's love to ask the question of, how best way people can find out more about you. How can they connect with you?
My website is dynamicastrology.com. Thank you for that, Jared. So basically go to my website. There's a bio on there. I think that there's stuff online as well, but I think that the book itself is quite revealing, because I put, and a lot of people say, you talk too much about your clients. But the only reason I talk about clients is a lot of the instances are like 4 clients rolled into one, because I'm trying to show people how to do it. There's apparently there's going to be a 10-year anniversary edition of the signs in 2027, so we're kind of talking about that at the moment.
That's
it was been out for 10 years, so there'll be some characters that will be in there and some characters that are going to be removed from there, because there's lots of different people that you're learning about. Thank you so much for having me. It was riveting.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Oak Road Diaries. We really appreciate you, and we really, really do hope that it added even the tiniest bit of value to your life.
If you felt that the conversation resonated with you, we invite you to share it, because you really never know who needs to hear this today.
You can find more tools for intentional living and the 7 pillars of transformation at thehappyatrium.com, or connect with us on our socials at thehappyatrium. We'd love to see and interact with you there.
Until next time, keep tending to your inner child, one breath, one step, and one story at a time.
Take care, and we'll see you down the road.